Hello everybody, this is Dr. Kevin Novak again. I thought I would just bring you up to date on the aquarium. What I did is I removed all the blue bio balls in the second chamber of my sump. And I added these little bitty 1-inch black bio balls that came with the SCA aquarium. This is part of the package. And I cut out a parabolic louver there that you get at the hardware store to put in the second chamber of the sump to replace the blue bio balls. Inside the sump, I decided to add 2 more biocenosis clarification baskets. Behind this pre-filter here is the second chamber, and that chamber now has a biocenosis clarification basket, as you can see, and it's sitting on top of the louver in order so water can get underneath it and all the way around it. And then from these 2 chambers, the first and second chamber, all the water goes to the third chamber here, where I have 3 biocenosis clarification baskets, and I have a pump that's down in there that's circulates the water underneath the baskets. As you can see, the current hitting that. And then all that water goes into the third chamber. I added another biocenosis clarification basket in the third chamber, and I moved my CO2 diffuser here that impregnates the CO2, which I made a video on. And I just moved that over and put that basket in there. And now, of course, there's the heater and there's the DC pump with my CO2. And basically now I'm using all biocenosis clarification basket. And this pre-filter here, I saw a video that guys just said you could make your own socks, and that's what I'm testing out here. I'm just doing some experiments with some material I bought at the fabric store, and so I won't elaborate too much on that. But inside the canister, once again, is the pre-filter material with 28 ounces of carbon going through the 2215 old Eheim that I had sitting up in the attic. But anyhow, now the sump contains all biocenosis clarification baskets. And here is the tank. I just hurried up and shot this so everyone can see the discus, how they're doing. And to be honest with you, these are no harder to keep than angelfish now, using this method. These fish are not showing any stress or anything. They're eating with the angels. Apparently, they're not showing that they need a water change. They're picking at food, the 3 of them. I guess the TDS is like 280, I think I tested it at, and they're doing just fine. Apparently the biocenosis clarification baskets are doing what they're supposed to be doing because they all look healthy. I will do a small water change, only to sump only at the end of the month. That would be at the end of November. And then they're having another show. Chicago Cichlid Association's having another show. Maybe I'll look for a couple more discs to put in the tank and maybe remove some of the angels out of the tank, because there's no reason. I'm having no troubles at all with these fish. Water changes, no. All I'm doing is once a month I do a partial water change in the sump. But another thing I wanted to talk to you about was some of these plants. Now, we've all had this. We all buy plants and they all die because these are emergent plants that we buy. And this plant, I cut it down, and as you see, it's growing in the dark. And this, of course, is a, submergent plant. And these swords are different swords that all went by the wayside in this aquarium. Either fish ate up the leaves. As you can see, these leaves have been eaten up by the bristlenose, but they're regrowing again. Now, the leaves just rotted away, like what happens to a lot of people with the original mother plant, and I just cut them down. I couldn't get the roots out because I would have had tear up the whole tank. That's how deep the roots were going. I just cut them. I figured, well, they grow. If they don't, put a piece of driftwood there. And look at that. They're all growing back. And these will be the submergent leaves. Now, these are not going to drown. These leaves will not drown. But they're not getting a lot of light either. Now, here's something. These two swords are being grown by the driftwood, and they are not even in the substrate. The foreground plant is bigger, gets a little more light than the background plant there, but as you can see, the roots are exposed and they're getting everything, all their nutrients from the water column without actually having their root systems in the substrate at all. These sword plants. And they just happen to come up out there from the mother plant when it sends out some of its baby plants, and these plants apparently have broken off of that plant and have just rooted themselves in this spot and have been there ever since. And I was surprised that they're still growing because it's so shaded in this spot. But as you can see, they're not even in the substrate. They're either with the driftwood, hanging onto that, and the one in the background, as you can see, all the root system is just going right down to the substrate. Here's some more. There used to be a sword plant over here, and these must be the babies from the sword plant, and that plant long gone disappeared, rotted away because it just drowned. But look at this, and these are in low light. And look at how nice they look. But these are completely emergent plants. And part of the roots are in the soil or in the substrate. Part of them are out of the substrate. Because these, once again, were the babies that just grew from the mother plant. And this is where they happened to land, and they took root and have stayed there. But the shocking thing that I thought I would show you is they're not in very bright light at all. That could be a reason why they're not growing huge. And apparently the bristlenose has kept away from these plants on chewing on them because you don't really see them all chewed up like the other ones. So I guess it depends on what their palate likes to chew on compared to other swords that may not be to their liking. And these apparently are growing in shade, which, as we all know, swords more or less like bright light. So you need a lot of light for sword plants. But these particular swords are growing in very dim light. And here's another sword that just grew off of the driftwood. Now, I didn't put it there. It just grew. As you see, it is showing some dead leaves because it is so dimly lit here that even the Anubias next to it is struggling because of the lack of light that's in this corner of the tank. But once again, there's another sword that is not in the substrate that was growing just next to a piece of driftwood, as you can see, and it has very little light. And then another thing I'm getting in my tank are these offspring of my lotus plants. Now, everybody likes to eat tiger lilies or the lotus plants. And I think these are these are lilies, and they came from the rhizome of the lilies. These are just little brown rhizomes from the main plant that I bought. I bought a few of them, and these are popping up all over the place. There's one right in front here, and there's one in the background, as you can see, stuck in the Monte Carlo. And this one got stuck in the Monte Carlo. But I'm starting to get these popping up all over the back of the aquarium. Here's another thing I want to show you, this Anubias. When I bought it, it didn't have a root system like this. The root system was very small, and this root system is about 12 inches long. It has grown that much on this piece of driftwood. But that's one thing about plants that everybody must understand. The first thing they do is develop a root system. Like I told you in the beginning of the video, some of the sword plants I could not even pull out. The root systems were so developed in my substrate that if I wanted to pull them out, I would destroy my whole plant tank. I'd have to move the driftwood and the root system was so developed. So that's why you're getting these new sorts coming out that are submergent, because the emergent plants didn't last very long. Maybe they lasted a couple months. But everyone ought to understand that when you buy a lot of new plants, they may not make it because they weren't grown submerged, but emerged. And that is done in a greenhouse. And in a greenhouse, they could really force the growth by actually adding more CO2 to the greenhouse. You can go on any agriculture website and they will show you different devices to increase the CO2 inside of greenhouses for agriculture. My father-in-law was a greenhouse grower, and these are little things greenhouse growers can do by adding more CO2 to make the plants grow faster, because CO2 is a plant fertilizer not only for aquatic plants, for terrestrial plants. And so don't get disappointed if your plants don't make it at first. It's only because they were probably growing emerged instead of submerged. Well, I just want to make this short video to let you know that I'm using all biostenosis clarification baskets, and I have no real desire to do any more than what I am doing with my aquarium, or the biostenosis clarification baskets. And they're working so well that the discs are doing so great that I personally see no reason why they're becoming so difficult for so many hobbyists. But I'll talk about that in my next video.